General. I don't know. It's really strange. Also pretty weird that Jeb named his son after his brother.
Well, you know them.
His dad, of course. Oh my gosh. Stupid.
Yeah, his dad.
His dad, not his brother. Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. Anything else on that?
Not really.
I'm not able to actually make any firm connections live here on the air, but some questions for sure.
I think the takeaway here that's interesting is that he is sort of building on what Trump built with the whole China thing. And it goes against what Biden verbally said, I think in February, where he's like, well, China's, they're just doing what they do there. And it's different culturally or whatever. I remember it was like a whole 180, like the month before he said he's going to lock down on China and blah, blah, blah. It's a human rights violation. And then like 3 weeks later, he was like, no, it's just cultural differences that, well, who am I to say, taking control of the Uyghurs. Yeah, that is
weird, isn't it? Maybe that's why they're turning against him.
Maybe it's just to do watch what I do, not as I say kind of thing with all, politicians is a thing. But yeah, it's just fascinating to watch. And it's not going to be talked about too much in the mainstream. That's another part of it. It's almost like they're protecting the the normies out there who are, supporters of Biden from any kind of brain explosion when they find out that Biden is building on Trump's policies about China. Because otherwise it would seem like, I don't know, even Republicans should be jumping all over this kind of story, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
This is weird. Look at the board of directors of the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hear them?
Isn't it some Chinese people?
No, that's what I was kind of shooting for. But again, just more rabbit holes to go down that I'm not going to do live. But we have the board of directors. We've got the chairman of the New York Times Company. We've got the CEO of GoDaddy, the CEO of Solomon Brothers, the CFO of Etsy, former AIG executive, CEO of New York Times Company, chairman and CEO of Pandora Media.
Yeah.
President of Wirecutter, founder of Ariel Investments, an investment company located in Chicago. Okay. Former CFO of Verizon and CMO of Oculus.
Ah, Facebook, right?
Yeah. CFO of Oculus. Oculus is a Facebook Technologies LLC, a subsidiary of Facebook. Facebook has a man on the board of directors of the New York Times, which I guess, I'm sorry, let me retract that. It is a woman, Rebecca.
Okay.
But yeah, that's very suspicious.
I really think the technocratic elite are starting to place people in for some kind of crazy, not just musical chairs, but like like Biden's working on the infrastructure overhaul here.
Oh yeah, that's how it works.
I think with like news media and a lot of that stuff, they're getting ready to kind of just revamp the whole thing as part of the Great Reset.
It is,
and they're just getting some of their players in the positions they want them to be in when things start to move around.
Some of these people are active in their CEO seats. Like you have an active CEO of GoDaddy, an active CMO of Oculus, an active, let's see here, CFO of Etsy. So you've got all these
conflict of interest in any of this.
I don't know, but that does seem weird that you could be the CEO of a humongous corporation and also sit on the board of directors of a news organization. That just seems wrong. It doesn't seem like you should be able to do that. Yeah. So, I mean, that's no surprise. We know that that's how the media works in the United States. So speaking of Facebook,
yes,
let's jump into this. This is coming directly from about.fb.com. This is Facebook put out this little press release in response to Oversight Board. Trump suspended for 2 years will only be reinstated if conditions permit. Last month, the Oversight Board upheld Facebook's suspension of former U.S. President Donald Trump's Facebook and Instagram accounts following his praise for people engaged in violence at the Capitol on January 6th. But in doing so, the board criticized the open-ended nature of the suspension, stating that, quote, it was not appropriate for Facebook to impose the indeterminate and standardless penalty of indefinite suspension. The board instructed us to review the decision and respond in a way that is clear and proportionate, and made a number of recommendations on how to improve our policies and processes. We are today announcing new enforcement protocols to be applied in exceptional cases such as this, and we are confirming the time-bound penalty consistent with those protocols, which we are applying to Mr. Trump's accounts. Given the gravity of the circumstances that led to Mr. Trump's suspension, we believe his actions constituted a severe violation of our rules, which merit the highest penalty available under the new enforcement protocols. We are suspending his accounts for 2 years, effective from the date of the initial suspension of January 7th this year. At the end of this period, we will look to experts to assess whether the risk to public safety has receded. We will evaluate external factors, including instances of violence, restrictions on peaceful assembly, and other markers of civil unrest.
If they did that with like half the politicians, over half the politicians would be banned.
It's crazy. If we determine that there is still a serious risk to public safety, we will extend the restriction for a set period of time and continue to reevaluate until the risk is receded. When the suspension is eventually lifted, there will be a strict set of rapidly escalating sanctions that will be triggered if Mr. Trump commits further violations in future, up to and including permanent removal of his pages and accounts. In establishing the 2-year sanction for severe violation, we considered the need for it to be long enough to allow a safe period of time after the acts of incitement to be significant enough to be a deterrent to Mr. Trump and others from committing such severe violations in the future, and to be proportionate to the gravity of the violation itself. We are grateful that the Oversight Board acknowledged that our original decision to suspend Trump, blah, 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 blah. And it kind of goes on and on. This is not that important. To the focus of this conversation we're going to have, which is they are suspending him for 2 years from January 7th. When does that put the lift of his suspension?
2023.
January 7th of 2023, the opening pitch of election season for 2024. This is just really weird timing, man. And especially because they chose the 2 years. Nothing said that it had to be 2 years. They could have picked 3 years if they really wanted to sort of sabotage any chance for him in 2024. But to let him, or maybe that's what they're holding over his head, say, okay, we'll let you back on at the beginning of election season if you don't run. If you do run, then we're going to ban you.
Right. They'll have him on like a really short leash.
Yeah.
He'll tweet out like, I'm back. And they're like, that's racist. Shut it down.
Totally. This is an attempt.
Said back. Back of what? Chinese people? Racist?
This is a very obviously, I think that's a great way to put it, an attempt by Facebook to put Trump on a really short leash. If they don't want him to run and he runs, then they just ban him again for whatever they want to. I mean, that's what they've been doing for years. Or maybe they kind of let him run, but if he doesn't play ball the way they want him to play, then boom, they ban him again. And the funny part is, as if he cares about Facebook.
I know.
Like as if being kicked off of Facebook was some sort of actual punishment for Donald Trump.
He's going to have, I thought by then he'll probably have his own social media platform and all that anyway. So, but maybe the other part that's bad about that is, well, what measures are going to go, are going to be thrown out there to try to reel that in, like, hey, internet service companies, you can't allow these people to visit this website, this domain.
Sure,
that's when you start getting really serious in terms of censorship. It's super China.
I think it's hilarious, though, that Facebook, it just shows sort of how they see themselves, which they really do see themselves as the technocrats that they sort of want to be, which is, everybody wants to be on Facebook. We're the bringers of truth and the creators of connection across the borders. We are the Skynet of human consciousness. So if you want to play in our playground, we'll let you do it, but don't mess with us.
There was some people on Twitter, and this goes to show how badly, like, the mental derangement of this is quite sad. So there's a guy named Andy Stone. He tweeted out, nothing about the status of President Trump's presence on our platform has changed. He remains indefinitely suspended. I think Andy Stone is like a Facebook alum, communications from Facebook. Mm-hmm. And then there's this Rabbi Jill Zimmerman responded, Andy, his verified account is still there with the link to his website, etc. I can hardly call that suspended. Please take him off the platform fully. It's like, come, okay, people,
it's just children, just like weird tattletale children,
or something like what? I don't know. It's
very sad.
It's sad. It's sad. It's like the mental derangement is very sad.
Teacher.
Yeah,
Trump's being mean.
But he was banned. But his page is still there. I could still see it. Well, then don't go there. But I type in Trump. Well, then don't type in Trump.
But I can't stop. I can't help myself. But I'm obsessed, you see.
But if they take the thing down, what are they going to do? Type in Trump. Oh, it's not there.
Now all is well.
All is well.
Better. So anyways, there you go. I just think that's hilarious and just again is ridiculous. But hey, they're a private company. They're allowed to do whatever they want to do. All right, let me bring up one last thing, and then I'll let you go out with your Nephilim updates there. What do you think?
There is no other like mother. So treat her right.
Come on. There we go. Okay, gonna talk about some mothers, but I will include fathers in this, and you'll see why in a second. It's coming from Wired.com. And the headline is, They Rage Quit the School System, and They're Not Going Back. Dun, dun, dun. A little bit of context here for you. For those who are not gamers, rage quit is the act of being enraged by losing a video game and then quitting out of rage and hoping that will somehow punish other people.
I experienced that way too much, or I had experienced that a lot when I was I used to be an NBA 2K player.
Yeah,
you jump into the live 5-on-5, and then people just quit. It's annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
really annoying.
Yeah, if you're on a team and somebody doesn't pass you the ball, in the case of NBA or whatever, then you just get mad and you leave. And it sabotages your team somehow. But let's see what they're talking about. It's easy to homeschool in Texas. Yeehaw, baby. A cursory search leads to a step-by-step guide for withdrawing your kid from the school system. Plug a few bits of information into a templated letter, send to a district administrator, and voila, you're running a school. And everything your kid learns is entirely up to you. Which sounds like a utopian idea, in my opinion. And yet, when I'm reading it on Wired, seems there's some tinge of disgust in there, isn't there? Quote, it was so nerve-wracking, says Sarahi Espatia, a mom of 4 in McKinney, Texas, a suburb north of Dallas. After a grueling spring of remote learning, Espatia began homeschooling her kids at the start of the 2020 school year. As a graduate of the public schools, of public schools, she felt like she had just plunged her family into the unknown. Quote, "We're so used to going to school," except that the definition of, quote, "going to school" had been radically upended by the COVID-19 pandemic. Campuses closed abruptly while children and teachers struggled mightily with online learning. Espatia, who also helps run the family restaurant, was left to navigate confusing new platforms, screen time fatigue, and endless technical malfunctions for 4 children. Her kids were 10, 8, 6, and 3. Her youngest, a preschool